My name is Mark Lightcap. I started working for Mike Kelley in 2005, and which was the end of, it was the lull in between The Day Is Done work and just at the beginning of Kandor. With the Kandor series, we were working outward from these Superman comics. So there were images from the comic books that Mike had adjusted the color on, and so these served as the templates. There's the bottle, and then there's the city, which is the city of Kandor, the city of Superman's birth, that's depicted in a myriad of ways in the comic books. The style in which they're drawn just ranges from these really kind of sparse, little primitive looking little landscapes to these, modernist sort of Art Deco cityscapes. So Mike wanted to make these into sculptures. So they were all sculpted in various materials and then cast in silicone. So all of these sculptures that are inside the bottles or on these pedestals are referred to as cities. And sometimes they look like cities, sometimes they look nothing like cities. They look like there's one that's looks like a rock and a piece of cauliflower. But it's actually a, totally literal translation of the comic book image. So it's kind of funny to call them cities. He wanted to have atmospheric effects in these sculptures, which, if you look at the comic, there will always be a cloud or some little, kind of microclimate in there. So originally the idea was to recreate these kind of atmospheric conditions inside the bottles. We were building all these gizmos from the scientific supply catalog, like the ioned wind generator. You could just make clouds in a bottle. Unfortunately involved a small amount of plutonium and a bunch of paperwork that had to be filed with the Department of Homeland Security, so we quickly decided that that was a bad idea. You would take one of these drawings and just go through it with Mike and start working very empirically, just get some material, start making sketches, start sticking things together. There was never any kind of computer, no, CAD work on these. It was very, put one foot in front of the other and stick things together until you can find an agreement on what it was supposed to look like. And so then we would peel off and make some moves with this material. Mike would come back over and, so it was this sort of back and forth. This is what we're gonna do, don't know exactly how we're gonna do it, but we'll kind of shove in there and find a way. Mike was always inspired by what was in front of him, so, we started working with this resin, and, it's just such an attractive material. You can make it in any color, you can make it in any form you want. And so we really went to town with that. There's a lot of styrofoam carving, which is a really, kind of easy material to work with in a lot of ways and opens a lot of possibilities. So, there was also a huge collection of just miscellaneous garbage around the studio, and so that would find its way in. Some of the cities, you can see there's like a miniature bowling pin and a piece of a drumstick that was just lying around that would find its way into the sculptures. We had a lot of fun in the studio. It was really a lot of experimentation. He wanted these Kandor sculptures to be really nice, to have this really, this finished quality to them. And I think that's what gives them that aura of being the 3D graphic is, they kind of, at their best, they kind of defy scale. You look at it and they look kind of like giant miniatures. Some of these cities would just involve, literally hundreds of hours of polishing. Very labor and capital intensive to produce. But it was, it was really fun and really gratifying, because they're amazing.